Hello and welcome to TNWKS, the Now We Know Show, the show where we discuss a topic of interest and by the end we will have learned something new and hopefully you will too. I'm Zak.
And I'm Buzz, and in this week's episode we are following the Christmas theme and we are going to be discovering all about Beowulf Day.
If you enjoy the Now We Know Show podcast, support Zak Wylde Productions on Patreon or join our members on YouTube for early access, ad-free content and exclusive episodes.
However, before we start finding out all there is to know about Beowulf Day and what it's got to do with the festive season, it's time for...
You guessed it.
Weird and Wonderful! And this week's Weird and Wonderful, I've brought it in, and it's the first ever Florida Man Games to feature beer belly wrestling and evading arrest obstacle course.
Sorry, what the heck was that? So you have to say that again. I didn't quite understand what that was.
Okay, so...
Take it step by step.
Okay, there's a new Florida Man Games going to be starting in February next year.
Okay.
And organisers of the Florida Man Games describe the competition as the most insane athletic showdown on Earth.
Wow, that is a bold statement.
Exactly. The games will poke fun at Florida's reputation for producing strange news stories involving guns, drugs, booze and reptiles, or some combination of the four.
Wow. Wow.
There we go.
Wow.
Among the contests planned for next February in St. Augustine, Florida, according to the organisers, there are the Evading Arrest Obstacle Course, in which contestants jump over fences and through yards while being chased by real police officers.
Oh my goodness.
The category... It's funny. The Category 5 cash grab, in which participants try to grab as much money in a wind-blowing booth. And the
It's like something out of Crystal Maze.
And the self-explanatory beer belly wrestling.
Beer belly wrestling.
Yes. This isn't just a competition, it's a one-of-a-kind Floridonian spectacle. There we go.
Wow.
There we go.
I wonder how beer belly wrestling is conducted. Do you reckon it's in like a ring, or are you standing on like a platform and kind of pushing against someone?
I have no idea.
Could it be like Viking wrestling, perchance?
Well, yeah, I've done that before and fell foul of somebody's beer gut.
Wow, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's where it originated.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was more of kind of like the budget Viking form of shield wrestling.
Okay, how did that?
We should have had two shields.
Yep.
On the floor.
Proper shields.
Viking
shields.
Well, ideally, you'd be on the grass because the handles would sink into the grass.
Right.
Okay? But because we were inside a hall when we were doing these Viking games, we had to have just round circles. But the organisers had forgotten one, so we only had one shield.
Oh.
Okay, so the idea is you have two shields,
which
are basically touching rim to rim, flat on the floor.
Rim to rim.
Yeah,
funny.
Don't say that.
You said it.
I don't. You got the two shields on the floor, so making like a figure of 8, yeah?
Yeah.
And one warrior stands on one, and one warrior stands on the other, and then you put your palms flat against each other.
Okay, we're
doing that
in the studio.
Okay.
Around the mic.
You brace yourself with your feet.
Okay, I'm bracing.
And then basically you got to push and try and weave and
outmaneuver
and cast the opponent so they at least step off or get thrown off their shield.
Oh.
Unfortunately, at these Viking Games, it was the world's strongest Viking Games in the city of York. The organisers, as I say, only had one circle that they brought, and so it meant that competitors had to stand on the one shield.
Oh, how do you fit two fully grown Vikings on one shield?
It is difficult, okay? And the
breathe in.
Yeah, it was like that, and
breathe out.
The Viking I had a bit of a tummy. And so we were sort of just getting on the shield and put our hands together, and then he sort of like pushed forward with his stomach, and I stepped backwards, and then it was like, right, point, and it's like, hang on, have we even started yet?
Calm it down, guys.
And it was like, and he did it twice, and it was like, this is ridiculous because I come hardly on the shield.
You have no purchase.
No purchase.
No skill. Just
so I actually lost 2-1 to my opponent's stomach, but I still came. I came second in the overall tournament, but I I was named the People's Champion.
I think you did have quite the fan base there.
Yeah, I did. I was the
did.
People's Champion, the strongest Viking.
And who were you, the Viking?
Oh, me.
Yes.
I am Ufgarda, Rauderskeg, basically.
Nice.
Redbeard.
Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, we're kind of, I suppose it's kind of on track of what we're talking
definitely,
about.
Definitely.
So there you are, just saying, Weird and Wonderful is this Florida Games, beer belly wrestling, and trying to outrun police officers in the evade obstacle course. Which
I mean, I could never think that you'd be able to like make that like a sport.
But there you go. Well, let's face it.
Maybe that's America.
In UK, we do cheese rolling, we do shin kicking,
and people think we're mad.
Yeah, we do all sorts of stuff. So anyway, good on you, Florida. Get to it. So anyway, this week, Beowulf Day.
Beowulf Day. So what is Beowulf Day?
Right. I think maybe we should start with, first of all, what is Beowulf? And I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard of Beowulf. Maybe they are scholars and have read Beowulf, or maybe they know Beowulf simply through films or TV shows.
Popular media,
But for those people, because this is the Now We Know show and we want to learn things, Beowulf is a very, very, very ancient Anglo-Saxon poem all about a heroic warrior whose name is
Beowulf.
In fact, it was written down over 1,000 years ago.
Wow.
It's the oldest existing piece of Anglo-Saxon written literature.
Wow, that is amazing.
It actually was in a library, the Cotton Library, in, I think it was the 1700s, can't think of the date off the top of my head, where the library virtually burnt down.
Oh, no.
And it actually is scorched.
Wow, the original text.
The original text, because this original text from over 1,000 years ago, we didn't have it now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just imagine, like, even with that kind of notion, like, obviously it was in a fire, and that was one of many texts within this archive of things.
It's crazy. I mean, we could go into another podcast all about the lost history of mankind, because you've probably heard of the Library of Alexandria.
Yes, I was going to bring that up.
Which was burnt to the ground, and this is just an example of one piece of literature, one story of epic proportion, of heroism, which is equal to any kind of modern heroes that you'd have
film,
in our own pop
TV,
culture, whether it be Superman,
books, novels,
whatever,
everything, comics.
You can bring Beowulf right up to date, and basically, even though this actual text was written over 1,000 years ago, it's equal to any kind of superhero comics, stories, films, graphic novels that you'd have today.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you have this written down, but although it was written down, and it's a story that revolves around the Geats, which were a Scandinavian, the lower part of Sweden tribe. So basically, you're looking at, if you imagine Viking warriors, and Danish Vikings as well. So sort of Denmark and Sweden. The story itself, when you read it, it has got a lot of Christian connotations that have been written in it by the scribe who's obviously writing it down. And it's probably, and we don't know who wrote Beowulf down.
I mean, being 1,000 years old,
we don't know what the actual
real history.
We don't know what the story was actually called, because there's no title to it. So
right.
it's
become known as Beowulf based upon the
main character in it.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
We don't know who wrote it, but probably, I'm guessing at the time, it probably would have been maybe a monk or somebody along those lines, because obviously it was the monks that would write.
Do all of the scribing,
and do all the scribing, yes. Anyway, so you've got this fantastic story, but my point is that it probably wasn't a new story when it was being written down, because you have this mix of fantasy in that you have the story of a warrior, and he's doing these most epic things, and he's having to fight Grendel, who is the main monster in the story.
Antagonist.
In the first half. I mean, there's basically three monsters, if you like it, in it. Grendel's the main one, because Grendel he's like from the marshes.
Like a kind of like a troll.
Well,
troll.
if you read it, I always got the impression that he was like a marsh beast, kind of covered in hair. He's described as having steel-like talons,
Right.
fire coming from his eyes and things,
Right.
and he dwells within the marshes.
'Cause that's really interesting. Because obviously, I'm a bit more familiar with obviously the modern movies.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the movies. Yeah.
Okay, where the depiction in that
I
is
think
a lot different
there's
to
a
what
few-
you just described.
There's a few different depictions, but in the story, he has got these big talons. I imagine him to be kind of almost like a werewolf type of creature. Yeah.
Wow, really?
With teeth and these steel-like claws, bigger. And he, as I say, he dwells within the marshland and in the mists.
A bog monster.
But there's also his mother that you hear about later in the story, who, so when, and I'll do a reading shortly, but his mother is an ogress, and she also lives deep in the waters, and they know nothing about her. So when Beowulf, what happens is King Hrothgar of the Danes, to sum this up quickly, he builds, he's a very important king, and a warrior himself. He is they call him a ring giver. Basically he gives out golden rings to his best warriors and his chieftains and things. And it's from the ring giving that authors like Tolkien take their inspiration when talking about the rings.
What in Lord of the Rings?
In Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
It's from these stories where people, again, like Tolkien, takes a lot of things from the Anglo-Saxon, from Beowulf and from other stories with the dragons and things like this that get mixed into Lord
So it's
of the
very
Rings.
much like a basis for modern fantasy literature.
When you take Tolkien, he obviously was a scholar in ancient Anglo-Saxon.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And he put an awful lot of that into his stories. And so Hrothgar, because he's this very successful king,
very, very
of the
important king,
Danes, he decides to build this golden hall of Herot. So this big, gigantic mead hall, which is scaled in gold, and it's very reminiscent to Valhalla, the golden hall of the gods, if you like.
Right,
So it's
right. Okay, going
there's
very
kind of a
much, yeah.
reflection there of where you talk about Valhalla and how the roof is made of golden slates or shields on the roof, and it gives you that impression. But anyway, this hall is so grand and so mighty, and he's such a fantastic, respected king of the Danes. But unbeknownst to King Hrothgar, is out in the marshlands, because we're living in a time where there's still demons and monsters and things, and this is kind of where it kind of crosses over the border of Christianity and of paganism, because you kind of feel that later on in Christianity you kind of don't have the fact that you're talking about this kind of marshland creature monsters and ogres, and as the story continues, dragons as well.
Right.
So it's kind of a bit of a mix, and I get, and I'm sure a lot of other people probably agree with me, that this is a story that was probably passed down through oral tradition.
Yeah.
To the point.
Like folk tales.
Folk tales, just like where Hans Christian Andersen and the Brothers Grimm went around collecting these folk tales. Whoever the author was that wrote down Beowulf may well have collected that story and then put as an author, put
their own spin.
Their own spin on it, because especially if they were a Christian clerical monk or whatever, they would have changed anything to do with the old gods, of Odin and Valhalla and
the Viking gods,
basically the ancient gods of the Vikings and
Norse mythology.
Yeah. So they would have changed that and put that Christian spin on it, and so this is a story that probably is much older than that when it was written down. And it's absolutely amazing that it has managed to survive
this long
on its original parchment is on, and survived a fire.
So it still exists.
It's in the British Museum. Yes.
Wow.
And
wow, that is.
And
really cool.
So with maybe this is an opportunity. Shall I read some for you and the listeners?
Yeah. Okay. And then we can talk more about its connection to Christmas.
Yeah, or the festive season.
Yes.
Okay. Where we take up the story is after the point where Beowulf and his Geat warriors have arrived at Herot and have been welcomed by King Hrothgar, and Beowulf has basically told the king that he is there to get rid of Grendel, his monster, and to rid the Golden Hall of Herot from this beast once and for all. And so they've had a banquet and welcomed Beowulf and his warriors, and we now are at the point where Beowulf and his men are going to be left in the Hall of Herot. Then was King Hrothgar minded to rest, aware of the monster brooding his attack, from the time when he saw the sun's first light to the time when darkness drowns all things, and under its shadow cover shapes do glide, dark beneath the clouds. The whole assembly rose up. Then did the king, with these words, leave Beowulf. Never have I, at any instance, to any man thus handed over Herot, as I here do to you. Take, and now hold to the house of the Danes. Bend your mind and your body, and wake against the foe. Beowulf then replied with a boasting speech, I fancy my fighting strength, my performance in combat, at least as greatly as Grendel does his, and therefore I shall not foreshorten his life with a slashing sword, too simple a business. Of good arms he knows nothing, of the shattering of shields. No, we'll at night play without any weapons. If unweaponed he dare face me in fight, Odin in his wisdom shall apportion the honours then, the All-Father to whichever he thinks fit. Then the hero lay down, while about him many brave sea warriors bent to their hall rest, not one of them thinking ever to see their beloved country again. Gliding through the shadows came the walker in the night. The warriors slept, all except one, and this man kept an unblinking watch. He waited, pent heart swelling with anger against his foe. From off the moorland mists fell. Came Grendel stalking. He moved through the dark, saw with perfect clearness the gold-panelled hall, mead-drinking place of men. The door gave way to a touch of his hand. Rage-inflamed wreckage bent, he tore the hall's jaws, hastening onwards, angrily advancing. From his eyes shot light in unloving form of fire. He saw in the hall the host of young warriors, and in his heart exulted, horrible monster, all his hopes swelling to a gluttonous meal. He meant to divide, monstrous in frightfulness, the life from each body that lay in that place. As a first step, he set his greedy hands on a sleeping soldier, savagely tore him, gnashed at his bone joints, bolted huge gobbets, sucked at his veins, and had soon eaten all of the man to his fingers and feet. Then he moved forward, reaching to seize our warrior Beowulf, stretched out from him with his spite-filled fist. But the faster man, forestalling, rose up upon his arm and quickly gripped that sickening hand. The upholder of evils immediately knew he had not met on Middle-earth's acres with any other man of a harder hand grasp. He strained to be off. He ailed for his darkness, his company of devils, and his den beneath the mere. But Hygelaic's brave kinsman recalled his evening's utterance, and tightened his hold until fingers burst. The monster strained away, the man stepped closer. The monster's desire was for darkness between them, direction regardless, to get out and run for his fen-bordered lair. It was an ill journey that persecutor had of it when he made for Herot that night. It was indeed wonderful that the wine-supper hall withstood the wrestling pair, that the world's great palace fell not to the ground, but it was girt firmly, both inside and out, with iron braces of skilled manufacture. Many a gold-worked wine bench, as we heard it, started from the floor at the struggles of the pair. A thing undreamed of by scalding wisdom was that any of mankind, but what method whatsoever, might undo that intricate antlered hall, sunder it by strength, unless it were swallowed in embrace of fire. Fear entered the Danes as they heard through the side wall the grisly plaint of the enemy of the gods. The sobs of the damned one bewailing his pain. The Geats leapt up to defend their great prince. They were ignorant then that no sword on earth, not the truest of steel, could touch their assailant, for every sword edge and weapon of victory he had blunted by wizardry. It was then that the monster moved in spite against our race, found in the end flesh and bone were to fail him. For Hyglic's great kinsman, stout-hearted warrior, had him fast by the hand, and hateful to each was the breath of the other. A rip in the giant flesh frame showed then. Shoulder muscles sprang apart, a snapping of tendons, bone locks burst, the arm of the demon was severed from his side, and Grendel flew, death-sick, to his joyless den, where he knew that the end of his life was in sight. Beowulf had cleansed Heorot, saved the hall from persecution. As a signal to all, the hero hung the hand, the arm, and torn off shoulder, the entire limb, Grendel's whole grip, beneath the soaring roof. Then it was as I heard it. At hall next morning, warrior with warrior walked to see this ghastly limb. The Ulthlings gazed at the hand, high under ceiling. Each nail socket seemed steel to the eye, each spur on the hand was a talon of fear. Of the bright building just the roof had survived, unmarred and in one piece. Along the wide, high roads the chiefs of the clans came, crossed remote tracks to follow the foe's footprints, who, with strength flagging, had staggered to his fen lair, giving up his heathen soul there, the death-daubed waters, becrimsoned, seethed gore-hot, and hell engulfed his life in the deep fen pool. Then the clan chiefs wheeled away from the mere in bold mood, joined by the young men, white-mounted warriors. It was then after, as a sign of victory, Hrothgar, son of Helfden, presented to Beowulf a sword worked in gold, and onto the floor had brought on 8 war horses with glancing bridles, one with a saddle studded with stones, battle seat of the Danes. He bade also compensation to be made again in gold for the men whom Grendel had horribly murdered. What a banquet then there was! Gladness mounted, bench mirth rang, the bearers poured out wine and mead from wonderful vessels. When the evening came, they cleared away the benches, covered the floor with beds and bolsters, the Geats placing by their heads their polished shields, the lindens of battle, always ready for war. What a nation they were! Then they sank into sleep, but it was soon made clear a survivor was still living, another foe, grieving, ailing for its loss. In the chilling currents, dwelling in dread waters, the monstrous ogress, Grendel's mother. Yeah, so there we are. There's a short passage.
Wow,
from
that was
Beowulf.
amazing. That was amazing.
And that one is
Well performed, by the way.
Thank you very much. It's mostly taken from Julian Glover's one-man stage show, Beowulf.
We do like Julian Glover.
Julian Glover did an absolutely fantastic one-man show, which unfortunately I've never seen the whole thing. But you can go onto YouTube, and if you look up Julian Glover and Beowulf, he does an absolutely fantastic rendition of part of the story.
Yes, I believe I've seen a good portion of that.
And talking about translations, there are probably well over 60 different translations. Probably the most popular are Seamus Heaney's one, as well as Tolkien himself did.
Wow, he did one.
Oh yeah, he's got a translation of
That's
Beowulf
cool.
as well. But there are many translations that probably differ just in little bits and pieces. My own translation of Beowulf is taking out the Christian parts and putting in the Norse.
Like kind of.
Yeah, making it feel as if it was from the oral tradition before it was written down. You see, that's what I like. I feel it gives it more of an traditional feeling from its roots. You know, so that's Beowulf. It's this fabulous story of heroism, and in that portion that I just read is when Beowulf defeats Grendel, and it comes to the point where they don't know that Grendel has a mother. Who then is...
That's kind of like a big shocking twist.
This big twist. She is then completely aggrieved that the fact her son
has been slain.
Been slain by Beowulf, and then she then comes back to take revenge.
Yeah.
And I won't tell you anything more than that at this point. But when that issue is resolved by Beowulf, then the story, he goes back to Geatland, where the Geats come from in Sweden, and the story kind of jumps on to when he becomes an old king.
Right.
And then his people are troubled by a dragon at that
Ooh,
point.
wow.
So to kind of sum up, what happens is a golden vessel is taken from the dragon's lair, and that's when the dragon starts to cause a lot of issues, and Beowulf is then, as an old man, an old king, for the last time, dons his armour to go into battle to
defeat the dragon.
To defeat the dragon. And it's interesting because the dragon itself, the reason it's got upset, if you like, is because part of its dragon's hoard has been taken. It's this one vessel, because the dragon lays on the pile of gold, which is, well, basically you're talking small.
Smaug, yeah.
Yes, you see, and it's those kind of things that
are
reflected.
That's connection to, again, Tolkien.
So, you have these things.
Well, and again, because that is very much the thing in The Hobbit. You have, he takes a little goblet, doesn't he?
Yes.
From the hoard.
From the hoard, yeah.
Takes it back to the dwarves.
Exactly. You see? And it's just that one item.
It's those connections. It really is those connections.
To come out and to attack, to start to desolate the land, and then Beowulf has to go and fight him. And unfortunately for Beowulf, that's the last battle he has. He is victorious, but he doesn't survive.
You'll have to find out. You have to watch some of those movies, read those translations.
That's right. But anyway, so Beowulf Day. For those that are scholars of Beowulf, and this is the thing about Beowulf Day, you don't have to be a scholar of Beowulf. You don't have to be a person who is like completely nerdy, if you like.
What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say. But people say, "Oh, I don't want to read that. It's in Anglo-Saxon. I don't want to. It's heavy going and things." No,
you don't have to.
You don't have to. That's the point, especially nowadays, because there are, and as we'll discuss shortly, so many different versions.
So many
that can introduce you to the whole epic of Beowulf. So it was decided a few years ago that it would be nice to have a day in the year to celebrate Beowulf. And not just Beowulf, but the whole idea of kind of like that, the winter festival, the time of Yule, to revive the fact
that kind of Scandinavian origins.
Yeah, to get that Scandinavian,
kind of Viking
Scandinavian,
feel.
Anglo-Saxon feel, because when you come to the festival of Christmas or Yule, depending on how you celebrate it, and that's the thing about Beowulf Day, you can celebrate it however you wish, depending on whether you're a religious person, whether you're not, it doesn't matter. But one of the things that I've found over the years that's kind of been lost through the festive period, especially today, in the modern times, is that Christmas Day is just like now seen as just one day.
Yeah.
Back in the...
It's such a build-up, even from September.
I don't
have stuff on the shelves.
I don't have an issue with the build-up because I actually really love the festive season.
Yeah.
But in our family tradition, we celebrate the Winter Festival, and I tend to shorten that just to call it Winterfest.
It's a good term.
But Winterfest is a bit of a modern term, but maybe it fits in more with people's sort of modern approach. But the Winter Festival of the winter solstice of Yule, basically, in medieval periods, in England, you'd celebrate the whole idea of Christmas. It used to last over about a 2-week period. And the best, for one of the reasons behind that was because you've come through autumn and you've had probably the most bountiful time of the year with produce and fruits and veg and everything else that you've got. But you're not all of that is going to get you through winter, or shall I say, not all of that is going to make itself through winter. You can store things, you can put things away, but you're talking about a time where you didn't have a refrigeration, you didn't have you'd pack maybe apples and things up into your hay loft and cover it in straw, and you'd salt meat and things to preserve it.
Yeah.
But you ended up having an excess of food.
Yeah.
Which was basically going to go rotten otherwise. So what you'd do is, by celebrating the Yule, celebrating the winter solstice, it was a time of feasting and of fun and of songs and of music and dancing, and you would basically eat your way through all that stuff that would otherwise go to waste.
Wow.
And you'd have this big and it lasted for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, what I've found in modern times is, as you say, you have that build-up to Christmas.
Yeah.
And people, I'm going to use the word Christmas in a term that, because Christmas these days you think of, in England, the John Lewis advert. In America, it's probably the Coca-Cola truck going around.
Yeah.
All these things. And you have this big build-up. pushing
It's
you,
very much commercialised.
pushing you
Very
commercially to buy this, buy this, buy
Buy,
this,
buy,
buy this.
buy.
And it has, and then you get to Christmas Day, and it's over.
Yep, done. Dusted.
And-
The end. See you
And
next
the
year.
poor old family members, whether it's the husbands or the wives or whomever that are putting on the Christmas dinner, are stressing. A little family coming round and it's stressful and everything else. And you kind of wonder whether the whole idea of chilling out, relaxing, and saying
Enjoying yourself.
you don't have to do it.
You don't have to stress out.
don't have
It's
to do
by
it in
no
one-
means.
one day.
No.
See, so
No.
what it is with Beowulf Day, which is the 24th of December,
So that's Christmas
it's
Eve.
Christmas Eve. Okay, and of course, different traditions, like for example in Germany, Christmas Eve, and in fact our own royal family still observe this. They have their Christmas on Christmas Eve. They open their presents on Christmas Eve, whereas we open ours on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So you can incorporate both traditional and ancient traditions into a kind of a more modern concept. And for me, I like to try and make the Christmas festival, that Winterfest, as something that lasts
Yeah.
between Beowulf Day. In fact, to be honest with you, I kind of get a bit excited. It starts for me on Krampus.
Krampus night. So that's the 5th.
That's the 5th through to the 6th. Yeah,
Okay.
so the night of the 5th into the 6th of December. And then when I know we've had Krampus now, it's kind of like, yeah, we're on the road now to Winterfest.
By the way, we did do a Krampus night
Yep.
podcast last year, so do check that out.
So we're now on the road, as you said, the build up to the Winter Festival.
Yes, yes.
To your
So as of time of recording, it is the 12th of December.
Yeah. So the excitement's getting there. But the great thing for me and for our family is that it starts on Beowulf Day and then lasts all the way through to midnight on New Year's Day. Okay, and that's pretty good because I find that you can celebrate the beginning on Beowulf Day. This is Christmas Eve.
Yep.
Have Christmas Day, or Winterfest Day. Call it what you will. You don't say it's not. From our perspective, it's not a religious thing. It's just a festival.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
you can
there's
put
a time to have fun.
it's
It's an
to put-
excuse to have fun.
It's to put into it whatever you wish,
Yeah.
but without the pressure of having to buy little Johnny a £400 PlayStation, else he's not going to be happy, you know?
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
going to go around and say, books for Christmas?
What the heck is that?
What the heck is that? No, so it's not...
I don't want books, I want toys.
It's not focusing on that at all. It's
No.
focusing about... So we have Beowulf Day, and I'll come back to sort of like the mechanics of Beowulf Day in a minute, but then you have Christmas Day, and then we always see family over that winter festival period, because we generally have that time off ourselves.
Yeah.
I've worked for different companies, and I've had to work over Christmases and things, and that helps as well, because if you're just saying, oh, it's really annoying, everybody else is having fun, and I'm working, if it's just that one day,
Yeah.
it's like you feel like everything's being blown out.
It is kind of weird because obviously on the build up to Christmas, you'd think that work and things like that would actually be winding down for the Christmas period, but in actuality, it gets busier at Christmas, and that really does.
I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in the UK, as soon
Kinda
as you hit Boxing Day, the day after Christmas Day, it's the sales. Everybody's there. It's sales, and it's got to get more commercialism. Shop. Forget the fact that you should still be, wherever you can, taking it easy,
enjoying yourself,
and still enjoying the feeling of
Yeah.
that winter festival, the festive season.
Of course.
It gets lost. One example for me is when I was a kid growing up, we used to have Christmas music playing. And you couldn't, back in them days, you had BBC One and ITV and BBC Two, and that was about it. But all the way through the Christmas period, you still had Christmas music being played. Now, of course, these days...
Is that on TV?
On TV. And you still felt Christmassy.
Yeah.
You know? But now you have channels that play Christmas music.
Yeah.
And so if you want, in the background, on Christmas Day itself, you can have Christmas music playing. As soon as Christmas Day is finished, all those channels shut down. Gone. Yeah. Now it's holiday adverts and go to the sales. And it's
January sales, yeah.
Don't like that at all. So the whole idea of Beowulf Day was of course, mainly to celebrate Beowulf, the epic story, but also to enjoy more of the winter festival with family and friends, and to take it easier and extend it through to New Year.
Why not? Why not? Of course you're going to want to have a longer good time.
To celebrate. So instead of making it, this is one day, Beowulf Day is day one, and it finishes the the winter
I mean, for
festival
instance, if you're
finishes-
putting so much pressure on that one day,
Yeah.
say something goes wrong, is that then your entire year ruined or something?
That's what happens. People say, "Oh, you're ruining Christmas. You're ruining Christmas."
Because that pressure is on that one day.
The pressure's on that one.
But
day.
there's no need for it
There's
to
no
be on
need
that
for
one
it.
day.
No, and so what we do on Beowulf Day is, yes, I like to do something connected to Beowulf, which might be a reading, just sitting there in front of the fire. At this point, I will say, if you go onto social media, onto Facebook, there is a Facebook group called Beowulf Day,
Okay.
and you can join that, and everybody celebrates Beowulf Day
Oh,
on
wow.
that group
That's really cool.
and puts up their photos and things.
Yeah, I'll have to put a link in the description of this podcast.
And what it is it doesn't matter. I mean, okay, we live in a cottage and we have a log burner.
Yeah.
Other people can have log burners, but I've had people that will go outside into their garden and have a little firebox or fire pit and make a fire. Or even if they've just literally got a candle they can light, to have that feeling of turn the lights off and there's that flame. Yeah, there's that flame that this story was told
Would have been told
a
around that fire, yeah.
If you can imagine, over 1,000 years ago,
If you can cast your mind back
into an old bower,
into a past,
that's it, into an
long
time
kind
ago,
of
and you've
long
got,
time ago,
got
yeah.
those young children and their parents around a fire,
all
and
gathered
there's the
together,
storyteller,
enjoying the time.
yeah, enjoying the time, and because it's winter outside.
It's cold.
But they've been
wanna stay
feasting,
warm,
but they're
yeah.
warm around that fire, and they're listening to these kind of stories and singing songs and things. And so it's that moment on Beowulf Day to say, yes, now the winter festival has begun. To have that fire, to maybe read a little bit of Beowulf. Don't have to do that. You don't have to do that at all. If you really don't like reading Beowulf, then we can move on to other things. But we also combine it with having a feast.
Yeah.
So, what we do is we just go. Now, that doesn't have to be, especially in this cost of living crisis, it doesn't mean that you have to go out and spend loads of money and buy rich cuts of hams and, beefs and turkeys and whatever and have this big spread, because you're going to be having this on Christmas Day the following day anyway.
Yeah.
But what you do is we like to get some cold cuts of meat and some cheeses,
Like a comfortable kind of little party menu.
It's the
type
same
thing.
stuff that you're going to be. People always overbuy for Christmas.
Yeah, so spread it out.
So we're spreading it out. So what we're doing is rather than saying, you can't eat that because it's not Christmas yet. Can't eat that. No, it's the beginning of Christmas on Christmas Eve. And you know you're going to have this big meal the next day.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, not everybody gets a Christmas dinner, but, I wish everybody in some way does manage to experience some,
Form of the
milk
festive
of
season,
human kindness on Christmas time. But you have this banquet. So it's your own kind of mini banquet.
Yeah.
In a reflection of those ancient times. And again, you can just put some candles there. And so people put their photographs up of what they have in their banquets and things. And this year will be the first time in several years we haven't had a banquet. I think we've been invited out to eat at a restaurant.
Oh.
So we may find ourselves out.
Can I come?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Hey.
But it'll be a little family thing at a restaurant. So that will be our Beowulf Day feast.
Yeah.
Now, what you can also do is start looking at all those things that are associated with Beowulf. And there's probably a lot that people listening didn't even know are associated with Beowulf.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's when we start bringing Beowulf this 1,000 years to today, and look at the things that are around us that have been influenced by Beowulf. Now, of course, Beowulf, you have that computer-generated Beowulf movie.
Oh, yeah, the 2007
That's right.
by Robert Zemeckis.
That's it, which is
It's
legendary,
literally called Beowulf.
Uh,
The director's cut is very good.
Yeah, I would recommend, if you've not seen it, to watch it on the director's cut. Yes, it has some. I mean, if you're a Beowulf aficionado to the actual poem itself,
I think it hit the theatre a couple of years before Avatar, first Avatar.
and again, it was filmed in 3D.
Yeah.
So you'll see people like poking.
It is very good.
Spears into the screen, and you think, that was definitely was intended to watch it in 3D. It's very good, but it has its downsides.
Well,
I tried to ignore
little niggles. It's not really a downside. I still enjoy it.
It's a film. So the best way to look at the animated one is
one of the animated ones.
We'll get to that. One of the animated ones. This is the computer-generated one that's got a full sort of star cast, isn't it?
Who's the main guy?
That would be Ray Winston.
Yes,
He's classic because it's not just this movie that I find odd choosing the lead character to be Beowulf, because there's another one that we'll talk about momentarily. But Ray Winston is a good old East Ender, isn't he?
I'm here to kill your monster.
I'm here to kill your monster. Right? I mean, it's hilarious in that side of things, you know. But it's also got Anthony Hopkins in there.
What's it? The guy from Red.
Oh, John Malkovich.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with him on set.
I
was in Red too.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a good chat with him. Helen Mirren was there. It's the bit where she's getting carted off, pretending she's the Queen of England.
Aren't you the guy on the phone?
I'm the guy on the
phone.
In
the, asylum
Yeah,
bit.
The scene got cut a little bit there, but yes, I was meant to ring the orderlies to come and take her away.
Yeah, you do see it in the movie.
I do kind of a bit of a flash.
You do see you.
Outside of filming, I was lucky enough to be there and have a little chat with John Malkovich, and he was saying about Helen Mirren in a nice, polite way. She's completely mad. Completely mad.
I'm the Queen of England.
I'm the Queen of England.
No, that's just the character.
Yeah, John Malkovich is great. It's also got Brendan Gleeson in there.
Brendan Gleeson?
Yeah.
Is that Wiglaf?
Yeah, he plays the right-hand man to Beowulf Wiglaf. You've seen him in... Well, that's so many movies.
So many things.
Gangs of New York, I think he's in there. Paddington 2.
Yes.
Because I worked with him on Paddington 2.
Yeah, Knuckles.
Knuckles. I was in the scenes with him in the prison. And of course, you can't escape the fact that it's also got Angelina Jolie.
Of course. That's kind of where it comes a bit.
That's where it falls apart for me.
Well, don't say fall apart, because we really do love this movie.
Yeah, I love the movie because one of the big things I love about that is the soundtrack. Whatever you think about the movie, the soundtrack, you can just listen to it's an epic soundtrack. Yeah, if you don't, even if you don't, calm down. If you don't like the movie, you can't not like the soundtrack. It's such an epic soundtrack, and when it comes to the drag, although
it definitely hits that kind of fantasy epic feel,
and it's the original story chopped up a bit, but the dragon's good in it. I like the dragon.
The dragon's good, yeah.
Angelina Jolie as Grendel's mother, not so good.
It's the heels.
It
doesn't quite make sense.
The stiletto heels. Well, yeah, actually, a better movie. So moving on from that one, and actually just touching upon the fact you said it's not the only animated one, because there are, I know at least one other animated one.
Yes, yeah.
Which is like 2D animation.
Yeah, that's kind of being a tale being told.
Yeah.
John Hurt had something to do with that, didn't he?
Yeah, I do believe you're
that's
right.
That's kind of one of my favourite depictions of Grendel, because he does seem to be this kind of swampy black demon creature.
But so that's well worth watching if you can get that.
And that is called Beowulf. Just not to make this confusing, but it is called Beowulf.
Beowulf again. But
to distinguish the two, we'll go for Beowulf, the director's cut, 2007, and then this one is probably came out earlier, I reckon, with John Hurt.
Yes.
So this is just Beowulf.
Then, talking about Grendel's mum,
yep,
far better depiction when it was Beowulf and Grendel, the movie Beowulf and Grendel.
Oh, that's the one with was it? The guy who plays Leonidas.
Yes.
What's his name?
Yeah, that's Gerard Butler. Okay, the depiction of Grendel's mother in that movie, really creepy.
From what I recall, it looked kind of like the Meg person from Legend.
Yeah, like Knucklebones.
Yeah, Meg Knucklebones, that's it.
Much more creepier, much more realistic.
Kind of a water sea hag.
Yeah, much more how you'd imagine, because she lives down in these caves deep in the water. In the story of Beowulf, I mean, again, it's fantasy, so you've got to say he puts on he's still got all his armour on, and he swims down to get to her caves. I think
it has been a while since we've seen it.
Yeah, but he swims down in the book, in the poem. He swims down. He swims. And eventually, and you can't imagine he's full armour. It's a chainmail or Odin's web, and he gets there and he comes out into the cave. But again, it's one of those situations where his sword. He's given the sword by. I can't think what the chap's name is from Hrothgar's nephew. I can't think of his name, but he gives him his sword, but that sword is just useless against.
Is in this specific film?
Not in this film. I'm talking about
just
in
general.
In Beowulf.
Okay.
normal swords won't do anything to Grendel's mother, but there is a sword that's forged by the Titans.
Okay.
That's in her treasure hoard.
Right.
And it's like a sword so big, and as I say, forged by the Titans at a time long before. That he's big enough to be able to wield this sword, and that's what actually slays her with. And again, that kind of brings into the story this whole idea of further back in time, talking about the Titans,
ancient history.
Anyway, so the depiction in Beowulf
and
Grendel with
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler, that's it. She's much creepier, much more like it. But then I have an issue with
Grendel and his dad.
Yeah, because they are literally. I mean, okay, the prosthetics is not bad, but they are shown to be trolls.
Yeah.
So,
but they're not particularly imposing.
They're not imposing. Yes, they're big, but really they're kind of like just Neanderthal cavemen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's his son that is Grendel that comes back.
They kind of changed how his arm gets pulled off in that one a bit, didn't they?
Yeah. If you watch the movie again, or anybody who's familiar with it, it's got a very small cast.
Yeah.
You don't see many people in it. I mean, it's nicely played.
There's a few recognisable faces.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who plays Hrothgar. Oh, yes, that's Stellan Skarsgård.
Skarsgård.
Not Skarsgård, that's it. So he's the father of...
Bill Skarsgård. And somebody else. There's so many Skarsgårds.
There's a lot. And they're all great. He's Hrothgar. And it's still a good movie. A lot of people like that. But again, I have a problem with Gerard Butler being Beowulf because he's got this really thick Scottish accent. So
yeah,
so you've got the East End accent. Yeah.
We all geeks.
I'm here to kill your monster, and then you switch over to the Scottish accent. Beowulf. But not all is finished there because there are so many.
There are a lot.
So let's roll some of these off. The worst one is the one with
Christopher Lambert,
Highlander himself.
It's a bit of an odd one. That it's kind of like almost post-apocalyptic in some ways.
I think it's set in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah,
and Grendel
is kind of like a ghosty.
It's an animated demon.
And then his mum, I don't even know how to describe that.
But
it's just something to be watched.
The story plot and the acting is awful.
I mean, he's got like dual-wield crossbows, I'm sure, and there's like this giant cutthroat razor used as like a guillotine at one point.
Yeah, you've got it's almost like you've got the road warriors from Mad Max 2.
Yeah.
Are outside.
It is one of those ones that just has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah. Once watched. I don't know if you watch it again.
I want to kind of track it down. That should be really cool.
Yeah. Another great one, which is based on Beowulf, is 13th Warrior.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that was Beowulf?
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's based on 13th Warrior.
Oh, wow.
It's based on Beowulf. You have the big,
the fire serpent.
Yeah, you got the fire serpent coming down out the hill.
You've got kind of that, of course, because you've got that kind of lady who's in the caves.
Yes,
it's kind of Grendel's mother, isn't it?
Kind of, but what it is their meat hall keeps getting attacked by.
It does. It does.
And
I'd never considered that.
It's basically and then the fireworm. Don't do this, or you'll disturb the fireworm. And of course, a worm is a dragon. So and of course you have got the 13 warriors. And what's his name?
Antonio Banderas.
Banderas is the 13th warrior, which is also throwing yourself back to Tolkien again. It's the 12 dwarfs and Bilbo Baggins.
Wow, yeah. That's really cool. That is actually really cool.
And of course, you've got the big, I can't think of his name, but the big Viking leader of the warriors is basically Beowulf in it.
Are you talking about the guy with the blonde hair? The blonde hair, yeah, he's in a few things.
So that is another one.
I had not, because we're going to have to watch that. Because I saw that being promoted on Facebook a few days ago.
Yeah, that's based on a lot of Beowulf in that.
That's really cool. Other films, we were talking about another Skarsgård now. Obviously, The Northman.
Yes, and that's another one which...
It's a different depiction.
It certainly has connections to Beowulf.
It kind of takes away almost that kind of fantasy element of having the demons, and the kind of Beowulf character that you do follow is kind of the thing plaguing the village.
The thing I like about that movie, although it's not strictly Beowulf, it has got that... It's both depicting real life and the the Norse
mythology. Yeah.
Because
Very well. He's having visions and seeing things.
That's right, and he goes into an ancient burial mound to retrieve a sword. That's very reminiscent. I always sort of think that's reminiscent of Conan the Barbarian when Schwarzenegger finds his sword.
It is. It
belongs to Grom.
Grom.
But more onto the Beowulf movies. Of course, you have Outlander.
Oh, we're not talking about the time-travelling Amazon series.
In Scotland.
No, we're talking about the film Outlander, which also has John Hurt in it.
It does. And who plays Hrothgar?
Yes.
And they have Harrod, the
Mead Hall. It is very clearly Beowulf in everything except the name.
And the fact that it is science fiction.
Yep, it is.
Vikings.
It is, because obviously a ship crashed down on Earth.
The main character is...
An alien.
From outer space. And on his ship... there's a beast, a Morwin, which they describe as a dragon. And that's what's the...
It kind of takes that kind of beastly role.
And that's what's attacking Harrod.
There is a little twist in there that makes it more Beowulfy, obviously, because there's more than one.
Oh, spoilers.
Kind of a bit.
But and it's also got Ron Perlman in there as well, which is...
Yeah, he's always good in everything.
Ron Perlman is brilliant. So that's another Beowulf one.
But that's a good twist one, that one. I actually quite like it, because it's nice to have kind of that sci-fi element thrown in.
Yeah, but that one, I enjoy watching that. Because that's what I mean. You can watch a Beowulf movie, and unless you're an absolute purist, they go, oh, no, that's not Beowulf, you've got to enjoy all these things for what they are.
Yeah, of course. Because is there really a perfect depiction in film of Beowulf?
No, there isn't. They have had a Beowulf TV series, and I thought that was absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I remember that was on BBC, wasn't it?
BBC. Again, I thought the main lead in that just wasn't big enough and strong enough to be Beowulf. It's a bit like watching, I mean, no disrespect to Tom Cruise in Jack Reacher.
Those films.
But, they're good action movies. But you need to watch it's Amazon, isn't it? We have Reacher on.
Yeah.
And now the Amazon series Reacher, he depicts the character.
He's basically dwarfed.
He depicks the character that's actually in the books.
Yeah, far better.
He's 6'4", 6'5".
He's stacked.
Stacked, Tom Cruise, love you, man, but it's not quite Jack Reacher.
Getting people to stay on boxes is a bit lame.
Anyway, back to Beowulf.
There is another depiction of the film which pops to mind, and that is Grendel, the Legend of Beowulf. Do you remember that?
That was
the very low budget one.
Very low budget.
On the front cover of the box, it has Beowulf wearing the massive Viking horns that do not appear in the film whatsoever.
No.
I remember there was kind of like...
Was that where there was kind of like...
It was quite heavily animated.
Trolley people in it?
Trolley people?
Trying to be trolls.
Oh. All I can remember is possibly either a badly CGI'd Grendel's mum or a badly CG'd dragon in that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that again.
So, unless anybody listening has, of a Beowulf-based movie that we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, we would love to know. Really, that is actually really interesting. We would love to know that. Please comment below. Comment below
or email, to Zak Wylde Productions.
Yes,
just go on the website, get the email address and bang an email over and let us know. But there are, and I'm sure there'll be more. And, of course, my desire would be for a film producer out there, film director, to take this epic story. And as I say, the Beowulf, the character and the adventures are equal to any kind of superhero thing we have. And you could take it...
Much like, comparison to, like, we've said in the past that the Eastern kind of martial arts movies are their superheroes.
They're superheroes, yeah. I mean, if you've got somebody who's running across water or fighting by balancing on blades of bamboo, it's because they're superheroes.
Yeah.
It's not because they're somehow you've trained in Eastern martial arts to reach this amazing level of skill. It's because they are their superheroes.
Yeah.
And Beowulf is one of our Anglo-Saxon...
It is a hero.
Scandinavian
a great hero.
And... so I'd love for somebody to take it and make a movie as epic as what Peter Jackson did with Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Ooh, that would be cool. That would be cool.
And maybe one day it'll happen. I do think there is scope for a really good version of Beowulf.
I mean, we had The Northman. That was pretty darn good.
Oh, I love that.
Pretty
movie.
darn good, yeah.
That's probably one of my best kind of Viking movies that's been released.
Well,
in recent years.
there was a lot of critics saying it was far too masculine.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It was based. A lot of it was based on how you would imagine historically the
Vikings to be.
the Scandinavians' culture to live day by day.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just depicting what would be a good attempt at historical correctness.
Yeah.
At a time where, yes, everything was very...
You can't view these things through modern eyes.
No,
you really can't.
You can't. But I would love to see Beowulf done to that kind of degree. I think it'd be super. So anyway, Beowulf Day. It is a day of celebration of the epic tale of Beowulf, and it's an excuse to have a feast, to sit around fire, drink mead.
Oh, yes.
You know, if you can get your hands on some mead,
Mead!
you're going to have mead.
Mead! To quote a Beowulf movie.
Beowulf. John Malkovich. You need to, and if you're going to drink mead, now this is coming from years and years of experience of sitting around campfires drinking mead, heat it up. Now, the best way to do that, back in the old days, a lot of the mead that we used to buy had corks in the bottles. And you could put the mead bottle, which is glass, so health and safety warnings here, be very careful. We used to put the glass bottle next to the fire, and as the mead inside got hotter and hotter, the pressure would push the cork up until it went and shot out. And as soon as the cork popped, take that out, pour it into your mead horns. Make sure it's in a vessel that's not going to smash, because you don't want to pour it into a glass while it's hot like that. So you pour it out, and it's basically steaming. And it's usually steaming even more if you're outside, because it's the cold weather. Tastes beautiful. Mead tastes far better warm or hot than it does when it's cold.
I know. Is this going to cue a mead podcast?
Yeah. However, maybe we should do a mead tasting. However, with mead, the most ancient of drinks, as to quote The World's End, was it?
The King Arthur of beers.
The King Arthur of beers, exactly. So if you're going to heat your mead, I mean, you could pour it out of the bottle into a pan, heat it up on your cooker, but if you're going to do it with a glass bottle, most meads these days come with a twist cap. So you want to break that seal, undo the cap, and just put it on just a tiny little bit so that the bottle can breathe, and heat your mead up by the fire. Keep an eye on it. Don't go picking the bottle up with your hand, because it will probably be really, really hot and burn yourself. So always have cloth leather glove.
Or gauntlet.
A gauntlet. I was going to get a gauntlet. It went from cloth to leather glove, and then you jumped in with the gauntlet to be able to share that mead. Enjoy your mead. Enjoy the fire, the dark night, and the coming of the winter festival. Don't celebrate it in one day. Start with Beowulf Day and go all the way through until the chiming of midnight on New Year's Day. And then the new year has begun properly, because on New Year's Day, that's the last feast of the season. You know, you've gone from the first feast on Beowulf Day, and you have your Christmas feast, and then you're obviously usually eating lots more on Boxing Day, because you've got all the leftovers, and then you might be travelling around and seeing family, or family coming to you and things. You have more feasts all the way through, and then you get to New Year's Eve, and you have your big party. Woohoo! Happy New Year! You know, Auld Lang Syne and all that. And then the first feast of the new year on New Year's Day. And as soon as you get to midnight, well, that's the end of the winter festival, because the new year has begun. And let's face it, we're all back to work for proper.
Boo! Boo!
But we all...
So enjoy the festive season while it lasts!
We all look back and go...
Make the most of every moment!
Thank the Norse gods for Beowulf Day.
Oh, yes. Are you going to be celebrating Beowulf Day this year, listeners?
Let us know.
We would love to know.
However, this is the penultimate podcast as we come to a close.
Of 2023.
We still have one more to go.
One more to go. Our festive Christmas party.
That's it.
That's going to be next week, so stay tuned for that.
We've got special guests coming in.
So stay tuned.
Won't tell you about it, but we've got special guests, and it's our Zak Wylde Productions
epic festive season party.
Now we know show Christmas party. But a round off, we have, as always,
the magical mystery hat.
The magical mystery hat.
The Sherlock Holmes hat of mystery.
That's right. We should maybe have some some Viking armour to go with it this week.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. I should get a Viking helmet to put all these options in.
Well, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Well, next time we'll switch the... Sherlock Holmes can have his deerstalker back and we'll bring in Beowulf's helm.
Yeah, we do have one of those. We do have one. So,
Right.
on the dwindling amount of topics for our exclusive episodes...
You're standing in front of me in the dungeon studio shaking that hat, so it can only mean one thing, that I've got to dive in there.
Oh, yes, you got to dive into the hat of mystery to pick out the subject for our next exclusive episode, which will be available for our patrons and YouTube members.
Right, my sleeve is being rolled up.
Okay, are you ready?
My hand is going in.
Okay.
Are you ready?
It might bite.
3, 2, 1, it's in. I'm rummaging. Oh, no, it's...
The hat of mystery is biting you.
Me. I've got one.
Okay, what's it going to be? What's it going to be?
Oh, there we go.
Is it going to be traumatic for me again?
Can you guess from the episode?
Okay.
It's episode 11.
11? Ooh, 11. Ooh.
Folklore.
Folklore. Oh, was that...
It's one of our folklore ones.
Hertfordshire folklore.
Well, let's say folklore in general.
That's actually quite good.
So,
I like that. That's a good one to pick out on this particular episode.
I look forward to having a little bit of a reminiscence over and catch up on folklore.
Possibly we can talk about another folklore episode that we're going to do in the future.
Of course. I'm looking forward to that.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to this channel and comment below any suggestions of topics or activities you'd like to listen to in future episodes. That's a big, are you the one they call Beowulf? Goodbye from Zak.
And that's a, I'm here to kill your monster. Goodbye from Buzz.
Happy Beowulf Day, everyone!
Happy Beowulf Day!
You can find the Now We Know Show podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music and Apple Podcasts. Keep up to date with everything ZWP on Facebook and Instagram, or visit the Zak Wylde Productions website at www.zakwyldeproductions.com. And remember to join us on Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access content and exclusive episodes.